Ronnie found a gear when it mattered most and started scoring heavy, and that's why he's here.
Made the final of this, sorry, the semi-finals of this tournament 2 years ago. He lost to Zhang Anda 9-6. He was actually 6-4 up in that semi-final. Lost the last 5 frames, which is pretty unusual for O'Sullivan. Zhang going on to lift the trophy, of course. Back to the 2024 World Grand Prix in January of last year for the last time O'Sullivan won a ranking title, so it's been a long time for him.
Yeah, and it was pointed out that it's been 7 years since Ronnie's actually won a tournament where he's come into the event at the round of 1-8, which is incredible. Dear, that's not one of his best. Just misjudged the little cannon just pushing through for the black there. Caught the much too thick, so it came to a pretty abrupt end. It's going to be interesting to see how Jack Nazowski deals with the occasion today. Of course, he's probably feeling like $1 million, probably feeling like he can't miss at the minute off the back of winning that Northern Ireland trophy. But this is a whole different test against Ronnie O'Sullivan. I think on form I make Jack slight favourite, but really want to write Ronnie off, do
you? Yes, and that head-to-head is perhaps something that poses the biggest challenge to Lazowski. Can he see past the fact that he's been very heavily beaten in all of their previous meetings? Can he cross that Rubicon? But having won his first title, then you've got to think that all things are possible now.
Safety play is going to play a key role in this match, which doesn't sound like the obvious thing, but because both players score so heavy and score so fast,
Before he lifted the title in Belfast, Lazowski was talking about his new relationship with Chris Henry and how he feels he's learned a lot in terms of the technical side of the game, the finer points of the game. And something that he's been looking to address is closing that gap between his best, which, as we know, can rival anyone, and his B game, which perhaps is too far away from that best level. As we know, the best players in the sport are able to produce a very high level even when they're not at their best. O'Sullivan certainly among that list. And O'Sullivan's long game, I think, has been as good in in the last few seasons as at any time of his career.
Yeah, that was a really well found long red. Lovely little corridor for the cue ball. It was a natural off the red to find the gap through the reds. Played it really nicely.
So he's under no pressure in that regard. Just how much he plays this season remains to be seen, but he seems to be enjoying his snooker. In fact, I've really heard him speak more positively about the way he's hitting the ball. Quite often in the past, when he's been playing lights out snooker, he's actually come into the studio afterwards and said, wasn't great, it was all right. But this season, it's been a lot more positive in terms of what he's said about the state of his game, the way he's hitting it with this new cue of his this season. But he's run out of position a couple of times in this first frame, so a 40-point lead, still plenty there for Lazowski if he can get it.
Close to the red, but not close enough, so say just that 40-point lead. Chance for Jack to just get his arm going. Very attractive table to come to, really pink and black out of play for the time being.
Lazowski's got himself back up to 22 on the provisional ranking list. So as things stand, unless he wins this tournament, he's going to be having to qualify for the upcoming UK Championship.
Well, it was a good pot on the blue, but I won't be happy with where the cue ball has finished. He's landed on nothing. Bit of a stop-start to this first frame. Just took the chance there to bring that safe black into play. He's going to have to sign to this long red.
venue. Didn't want the cannon on the yellow. But it worked out too badly.
Yeah, and even the black that, as you say, just wriggled in off the jaw, it did Jack a favour really potting it thick, because it meant the cue ball held up and therefore got a nice angle on his next red to bring the 3 reds by the black into play. So all of a sudden this is looking like a chance that Jack can at least get himself back involved in this frame. Put in another wonderful performance yesterday against Leicester's Louis Heathcote, did Jack Force.
Yeah, Heathcote's made a very encouraging start to the season, now working with former pro Anthony Hamilton, the former German Masters champion, so that was a very good win.
Took the chance there just to try and move that red away from the black a fraction, mainly to see if he could make this black pot to right corner. Having a look, I'm not sure what sort of angle he's got on this red. He looks pretty straight. Can he get back out for the black? Yeah, he's done well. He's able to manufacture some sort of angle from barely anything there. So the final red down the right side cushion, clearly going to be the key to this frame. Made easy by the fact that that yellow is closer to the corner pocket. Don't have to do too much from the colour from the final red. He's played that absolutely perfect. Just float that red in, guaranteed an angle, and it's been a good break this so far. Chance to put the finishing touches to it now.
What a bonus it would be to snaffle this first frame. O'Sullivan in twice, but just 40 to show for those 2 scoring visits. And you've only won 1 frame in your previous 3 meetings with Ronnie O'Sullivan over this best of 11 frame distance. Good start, vital. So just this green. O'Sullivan in now familiar territory then, behind early here in Nanjing. How about that? Doesn't bother with the black. That was some break from Lazowski, 72 to the pink. After O'Sullivan had led by 40 points, what a start from the Northern Ireland Open champion. And what a match we have in store between this pair over the best of 11. 2 of the most exciting on the planet. Lazowski leading 1-0. So O'Sullivan with the early chance after Lazowski had missed a red to the left corner, but it went wrong pretty quickly. Failed to get on the black, then got in again with this excellent red, and you thought, well, he's now going to finish the job, but it wasn't to be.
Still in.
Steve Maguire, who won the first ranking event of this season. This is the 8th. The Championship League. He's 1-0 up on Kyron Wilson. Break of 54 from Maguire. John Higgins has the first against Hossein Vafai. Half century from Higgins. And it's 1-0 Serge Aoui over Gary Wilson. 79 from Sir in the first, and he's in the balls in the second. Tables 1 to 4, all available on Discovery Plus, including Lei Pei Fan against Xiao Zhentong, who's not been past the round of 16 as world champion this season in a ranking event. The first frame is still underway, with Lei currently 32 in front with 43 left.
Good line on the safety that Jack found there. Cut off a number of reds down this right side. Oh, he does have sight of the red or left of the main cluster. Just having a look to see whether or not he can thread that cue ball through the reds in attempting to pot this one. Similar sort of shot to what he played earlier. There's a good pot. Look at the outcome. He'll be mightily pleased with that one. The pot was brilliant. Middled it. Trusted to look a fraction as to where the cue ball was going to finish, and it couldn't have turned out any better.
Yes, O'Sullivan has said that he reckons he's hitting the ball better than he has in a decade, maybe more. And for him, at this stage of his career, that is more important, he says, than winning. Feeling like he's playing well. He's always been a player who's not satisfied purely with the result. He wants to feel as though he's playing the game as he can, and clearly at the moment he does feel that way.
Yeah, and as with all greats in any sport, really, it's that pursuit of perfection, isn't it? You know, that the winning is sort of a byproduct of a good performance, and for Ronnie it's all about feeling, the timing, everything sort of technically has to be in good working order. And when it is, he's just so dangerous, isn't he? It's the speed of which he scores too, when he gets in that rhythm, gets in that flow. He's not flowing just yet, so far in this game anyway. Only chance in the first, broke down quickly, and once again he's broke down. One thing that's been clear though with Ronnie here in Nanjing, he's been very patient. When he has run out of position, he's made sure to keep that good level of discipline to play a good telling safety shot. And there's another, not just pushing the cue ball into balk and leaving Jack sight of this long red. Getting the cue ball tight under the cushion really limits what Jack can actually do with this shot. And if he is going to go for this long red, it's one of those where he really has to get it.
So that excellent safety from O'Sullivan has created this chance. taken. Yes, the pockets may be a little more receptive than for other tournaments, but you've still got to be very accurate. It's all relative.
Well, missing the reds completely, and the cue ball's coming back down. Looking for the thinnest of edges.
Sullivan, Zalski has made the last 4 of this tournament before. That was 7 years ago. He lost a tight one to Neil Robertson. Robertson will be in action in this evening's session from 11:30 UK time against Yuan Sijun, table 3. You can watch that on Discovery Plus. Our feature will be Judd Trump, who's going for a hat-trick of international championships. He won the first back in 2012, Trump. He's playing Noppon Sankam, who's rather fallen out of form of late. Provisionally end of season Noppon coming into this tournament in the 50s, so he's looking for confidence restoring run this week. And on table 1 it'll be arguably the player of the week so far, Ding Junhui, who's made 6 centuries in his 2 matches here against Liam Highfield.
Good chance this for Jack. Nicely in amongst them. First red to get in. Wasn't the cleanest of strikes, but it went in. Now he can look to get to work and pile some early pressure on O'Sullivan. He's been behind early in both of his matches so far this week, Ronnie. He was 2-0 down to Sanderson Lamp yesterday. Days. The balls do seem to open nicely. Well, and decided to try and keep that break going with a very tough pot to the yellow pocket.
So Sullivan 17 behind, but it will be a major surprise given the state of the table if he doesn't level the match here. He's had a few chances already which haven't amounted to that much, but the balls couldn't be much better than they are here.
Yeah, not only did the split not go to plan for Jack, but he landed in a spot where it wasn't all that easy to play a really good safety shot from, so took the decision to try and attack, and in the end turned out to be quite a cheap mistake and presented this chance for Ronnie to get settled into this game, get on the scoreboard. You would expect him to win the frame at this visit now.
Becomes the third member of the fabled class of 92 to turn 50 next month. Williams and Higgins already there, of course. William sadly not here in Nanjing. He pulled out through ill health. John Higgins in action at the moment against Hossein Bafai at the first frame. So Jack Lazowski ran out of position, tried to keep the break going, failed to do so, and O'Sullivan, barring snookers, has punished him. Two snookers required as things stand. Lazowski comes back to the table needing not only two snookers but finding himself behind the brown, and he concedes the frame having missed the green. So honours even after two frames. Battle joined by Ronnie O'Sullivan, punishing Jack Lazowski's error after he ran out of position going into the bunch. And so it's one frame all, 6 the target for a place in the last 16.
A very similar frame, this second one to the first. Both players having a couple of half chances. That felt like quite a big mistake from O'Sullivan, trying to catch the thin edge of the red, missing it completely, leaving the chance for Jack. But this proved to be where Jack faltered going into the pack, didn't open them nicely, decided to take this red on. Quite a high tariff shot, no real control over red or cue ball, and ended up doing the frame at that. Oh, with that one shot there, Ronnie did the rest, put the finishing touches to it, so one each. Both players now settled into this match, and it always looked like it was going to be a very attractive, heavy scoring game on paper, and now perhaps with both players getting that frame on the board, we might see a bit more free-flowing snooker.
Yes, at this stage the frame was effectively over. Lazowski needed a couple of snookers, missed the green, and immediately nodded his head in the direction of O'Sullivan. So 1-all. This is the state of play on table 2 and on Discovery Plus. As mentioned, Zhao winning a very tight first frame, which came down to the last couple of colours against the reigning Scottish Open champion Lei Pei Fan. What an achievement that was for Lei, who'd never been to a quarter-final prior to that success. He beat Wu Yiza in the final. Charles and Tong's achievement at the Crucible was even more remarkable, of course, coming from the first round of qualifying to become the first Chinese world champion. He was devastating and, of course, demolished O'Sullivan in the semis, 17-7. So 1 frame all. Lazowski with the first with 72 clearance to the pink, but then the error in the second allowing O'Sullivan in to level at 1 each. The winner of this to play either Jack Jones, former world finalist, or Barry Hawkins, who made the UK and German Masters final last season. They're in action on table 7 at the moment.
Was an attempt at the pot from Ronnie O'Sullivan, but didn't look like it. It was that far away.
Jones and Hawkins have split the first 2 frames. Walker's just made a break of 81 to make it 1 each. One each as well between Zhang Anda and
oh my dearie me, what a pot that is. How well has he struck that? Back of the leather, using the pack of reds as well. Might have fancied bringing more reds into play with that shot. What an aggressive shot that was. That's what he can do, isn't it, Jack Lazowski? He can pot them from anywhere, really. Off the lampshade at times, and it's earned him this chance. Oh, and again, playing a very, very aggressive shot. Having to use plenty of pace there to find the correct line to get into the pack of reds. Didn't have all that much angle to play with.
And no one can say that he didn't earn that Northern Ireland Open title. It's not as though the draw opened up for him. Remember, he beat Mark Selby, he beat Kyron Wilson. Zhou Yulong, who of course made the final of the English Open this season in the semis, resoundingly 6-1, and then the most consistent player of the last few years, and the world #1 Judd Trump in the final.
Yeah, he did it the hard way, didn't he, Jack? You know, regardless of the outcome of that final, it was a fantastic week from him, but of course when you get that far, it's all about getting your hands on that trophy, but it just meant that a little bit more to Jack Lazowski because of the externals and everything that's gone on, particularly in recent months with him. I thought he did very, very well. So pleased for him, as I'm sure most of the players on the tour are. You know, I presume a lot of the players in China have been congratulating him and been a lot of talk. Of course, when you're out there in the arena, it's back to business.
Yeah, these days, Stephen, you don't have time to dwell either on your disappointments or your successes, because chances are the very next week you're back on a plane somewhere for another tournament.
Yeah, the schedule's so busy. A lot of tournaments back to back and a lot of travelling in between. You know, it's structured that if you do get a win like Jack's done, it's quite easy to get a little bit of momentum going forward and continue on that success. That's what he'll be hoping for. Works the opposite way, you know, if you're losing matches, you can sort of go on a spree of not managing to get results, and it can be quite demoralising at times. So when you do get those victories, it's important to try and capitalise on them, take that confidence forward. Confidence is not something this man lacks anyway, the way he plays the game. Not entirely sure of the cannon he's going to get in potting this pink. Just taking a second here to try and figure this little puzzle out. Yeah, that's worked out fine.
It's impossible to quantify the degree of confidence you gain from proving yourself as much as anyone else that you're winning. That sounds now has that he could have previously, but he hadn't done it. And that's the exciting thing for all of his fans going forward. What that is going to mean for the remainder of his career, because he's still a young man. There's a lot of snooker ahead of him. If he can show the sort of dedication to the sport that we've seen from his good friend Judd Trump, for example, the work that he puts in, and indeed his opponent today, Ronnie O'Sullivan, that's something I think that is sometimes overlooked a little, just how hard O'Sullivan works at his game away from the match table. His brilliance doesn't happen by accident. If Lazowski can be that motivated, well, who knows what he might go on to achieve.
Yeah, and it's something he's addressed, isn't it? The fact that he is working that little bit harder now on the practice table, the fact that it has become a little more serious. It's not fun and games anymore. This is his job. There's no reason why he can't go on to win more titles, because you know, just his talent alone is good enough to get him to the latter stages of events. Pair that with the hard work and a bit more steel in his game, you do fancy him to kick on. He's kicking on in this frame. It's been a good visit so far. Took the bull by the horns very early on with that fantastic opening red.
Yeah, that was a stunner. We saw quite a few of those on his way to the title in Belfast. I guess one of the medium-term goals for Lazowski will be getting himself back where he belongs among the world's top 16. Big tournaments coming up in quick succession. The UK Championship, of course, next month. The Scottish Open that follows that, as Lazowski takes care of frame ball. So plenty of chances for him to regain his place amongst the game's elite as O'Sullivan watches on. Not the best of starts from O'Sullivan. He was able to take advantage of Lazowski's error in the previous frame, but there have been a few errors in there as well.
Yeah, it's been a good response actually to that second frame from Jack, because it was quite a cheap mistake he made when he was nicely in. He wasn't forced for going for that red and letting Ronnie in, but he's done enough in this frame.
Yes, the break of 75 enough. Ronnie O'Sullivan remains in his chair. So, Jack Lazowski, who's lost all 4 of his meetings with the Rocket by quite a margin, takes the lead and now has the chance to forge an advantage at the mid-session interval here in Nanjing. He leads Ronnie O'Sullivan 2-1. Other scores, Stephen Maguire 2-0 up on Kyron Wilson, 1 each, Jack Jones and Barry Hawkins. The winner of that plays the winner of this in the last 16. And over on table 2, of course, it's the world champion against the Scottish Open champion. There he is, Le Payfan, who just missed out in the first frame, but Zhao has built on that by taking the second as well. He hasn't had the best of starts this season, I think it's fair to say. The shadow of the player who swept all before him, both in qualifying and at the Crucible in the spring. He was very handily beaten by Jordan Brown at the Northern Ireland Open. Apparently feeling a bit under the weather, but even so, he was a long way off anything approaching his best game. But as we've been talking about, Stephen, there's so many tournaments now, there's plenty of time for him to find that form again.
Yeah, and it seemed unlikely that that drought of form was going to continue for a long period. He was just kind of waiting for Zhao to spring into action. I mean, when I played him in the Saudi Arabia Snooker Masters, it was about as good as anyone's ever played against me, and about as good as a performance I've ever seen, in fact, and I really did fancy him to kick on from there, but it just hasn't been the case.
Yeah, I think you were a bit unlucky that day, weren't you? Because that was very much the exception to the rule for him this season. He was, as you say, unplayable that day. Well, that's gone wrong positionally, but at the moment in charge.
I think a lot of snooker players at times, we often find ourselves a bit hard done by, and I certainly felt it that day. After such a great week as well, you kind of... Is he eyeing up another long red? Punch this in, stun across the face of the pink. Oh, just beautiful. Beautiful again from Jack Lazowski. Took no time at all to decide on the shot he was going to play. Saw the red, got down and knocked it in. Wonderful shot.
I'm sure O'Sullivan would have been among the many players Stephen has alluded to who would have been very happy to see Lazowski cross the line in a big event. Big fan of his game, the way he plays, the way he attacks the balls. Hoping, of course, that he won't replicate that form today, but the early signs from Lazowski are positive. And having said that, he's undercut that red by a margin, and look at the table. Goodness me.
Black he played wasn't good, was it? Left himself much too low on that red. The sort of shot that you know he's going to take on still. The cue ball going through the pack of the reds. You're kind of watching it with your head in your hands between your fingers. Not quite sure what's going to happen. Missed it by a long way.
And after such a great long red, just as he knocked in the previous frame, disappointment for Lazowski to really hand this opportunity to O'Sullivan to tie it up at the interval. A start from Stephen Maguire against the former world champion Kyron Wilson. 3-0 Maguire. Breaks of 54, 63 and 104. Wilson's only scored 24 points, all of those in the first frame. Maguire won the Championship League at the start of this season. Anthony McGill, who's shown some of the old form this season after a pretty barren spell. Of course, he made the final of the English Open, losing to Sean Murphy. He's at 1 each with Jimmy Robertson. Hossein Vafai is level with John Higgins. 1 each, breaker 67, and he's in front in the third.
Well, it's been a good opportunity this for Ronnie. Red spread far and wide, and if he can take this frame and go to the interval at 2 each, it'll be 2 frames he's won that really have come off gifts from Jack Lazowski. Could have been a whole different game. Ronnie sort of just clinging on, it feels, but it's always the danger with Jack. He plays such an open, aggressive game that you're not going to get chances if he misses. Quite often chances look like this, where the balls have gone everywhere.
Zhang Anda has just made his 2nd century of the match against Wu Yize to retake the lead at 2-1.
It's amazing, isn't it? Everywhere you look on every table, you just refresh the live scores and just one visits galore.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would be surprised if we saw another maximum before the week's out. We've had one in qualifying from Gary Wilson. Of course, Ronnie O'Sullivan produced that quite incredible performance in Saudi Arabia to make 2 in 1 session, after Jackson Page had become the first player to make 2 in the same match in World Championship qualifying. We've already had 13 this season, of course, 15 being the record last season, and well, we're only about a third of the way through the campaign. So that record is surely going to go, quite possibly before Christmas.
Well, the good thing for Ronnie, just doing the maths, is that the reds that are safe, you won't need them if you can take high value colours with these final 2. Little glance at the scoreboard, he'll know that.
Yes, as you say, a couple of gifts really, and Ronnie O'Sullivan, not the player really to be offering gifts to. I think Lazowski's arguably been a better player so far, but he's not going to have any advantage on the scoreboard to reflect that, because the errors he's made have been punished. And if there was any doubt about this frame, it's over now. So, predictably quick-fire quartet of frames between this pair. It was never going to be slow, was it? Whatever happened. And it's set up beautifully for the second half when they come back in about 15 minutes.
Disappointing for Jack, because he'll feel like these points should have been his. As if that red had gone in, the result, these points could have been his. And look at that for a shot from Ronnie. That superb. You won't see a better controlled positional shot than that. A little flick to the red just to push that into play, keeping the hunt for the century alive.
Yeah, this has been some break. Yes, the reds were spread far and wide by Lazowski, but O'Sullivan's taken them superbly for his 6th century of the tournament. And an incredible 1,312 now for his career. He's 23rd of the season. He made 25 last season, albeit, of course, he missed a lot of snooker. That's a foul with his feet off the table. But the century already completed. Highly entertaining stuff, as was very much expected between this pair, and nothing to choose at the interval. So it's set up perfectly for the second half of the match. They both need 4 from here to move through